Israeli forces have stormed the main city in the southern Gaza Strip, Khan Younis, in what appears to be the biggest ground assault since the truce collapsed last week. Now, Israel is expanding its operation and says that the next phase of fighting is expected to be difficult. And meanwhile, Qatar has criticised what it describes as the inaction of the international community over the intensifying bombardment in Gaza. The Qatari Emir calling on the UN Security Council to force Israel back to the negotiating table. He's added that Tel Aviv should understand that the occupation era is gone. The leader affirms that his country is constantly working to renew the truce, adding that it wasn't an alternative to a permanent ceasefire. And meantime, Israel says that it remains open to what it calls constructive feedback on reducing harm to civilians. But that's as long as the advice is consistent with its aim of destroying Hamas. Gaza's health ministry has warned of a massacre as Israeli forces intensify their attacks around Kamal Adwan Hospital, that's in northern Gaza. Tanks and snipers are reportedly surrounding the facility and, quote, shooting at anyone who moves. An estimated 7,000 Palestinians are sheltering inside. And reports say around 108 civilians have been killed due to Israeli attacks, while dozens of others are injured in the hospital's vicinity. The hospital is one of only 6 still operating in the besieged enclave. The Israeli army says that it's surrounded the Jabalia refugee camp that's also in the north of Gaza. That's after it destroyed what it called terrorist infrastructure. The camp is the largest in Gaza, and it's already been the target of multiple Israeli attacks since the 7th of October. Israeli forces, meantime, have officially begun their operations in the southern Gaza region, where thousands across the enclave have evacuated to. Doctors and medical staff in Khan Younis city, they are struggling to treat an influx of patients from an airstrike in the city's east. Ambulances and private cars can be seen racing, carrying wounded people around. A World Health Organization official says that the situation is deteriorating by the hour. Our residents say troops were seen advancing following heavy airstrikes in a town just outside Khan Younis. The IDF has said that the central road outside the southern city constitutes a battlefield. They've called for more evacuations in southern Gaza to flee to other areas. Tel Aviv is facing heavy international pressure to limit civilian casualties, and that includes from the United States. A virtual map system has been put out to warn civilians which areas are dangerous, but it remains unclear how many residents actually receive those warnings. The UN has warned that it was impossible to create so-called safe zones for civilians to flee. Tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians have arrived in Rafah over the past 2 days since Israel announced that they were expanding their operations. Now, from the north to the south, Palestinians in the besieged enclave say that nowhere is safe. The Palestinian Health Ministry has also reported close to 16,000 deaths due to the Israeli strikes in Gaza since the 7th of October.
مفيش ولا أي مكان آمن وحتى يعني جهات رسمية أو أطراف رسمية في الحرب قالت مفيش في قطاع غزة مكان آمن. لكن احنا بالآخر يعني نذهب إلى حيث نعتقد إنه شيء من الأمان.
For more, Sarah Coates joins us. She's live in Tel Aviv. Sarah, Israel says that it's open to feedback to minimize harm on civilians as long as that feedback is consistent with Israel's war aims. What do we know about this, and how effective might that instruction be to actually keep civilians safe?
Hello there, Dawn. Well, look, the United States has been increasingly firm with Israel that it must limit civilian casualties inside the Gaza Strip. And this was one of the messages yesterday from that senior US delegation that arrived here in Israel with the Vice President Kamala Harris. They've been saying that Israel must do everything in its power to protect these people inside the Gaza Strip. But look, what we're seeing on the ground today is a fresh evacuation order that is from the city of Khan Younis down in the south. That was home to around 450,000 people before all these evacuation orders were in place and before all this fighting began after October 7. Now, these residents are being once again warned to move from Khan Younis down to the south in Rafah. But as we know, this area continues to come under Israeli bombardment. Now, there's also been a statement put out on X telling people not to use Salah al-Din Road. This is the main highway that connects the north to the south, with unverified videos coming in from the ground showing heavy fighting taking place right along that stretch of highway. Now, the military also says it will pause fighting down in Rafah for a number of areas today to let in crucial humanitarian aid, with the United Nations saying that before this, so far today, no aid had come into the Strip simply due to this heavy bombardment. So, look, as you mentioned, the situation is extremely grim. We've seen pictures coming in from the Nasser hospital, that is in Khan Younis, of just truck after truck, car after car carrying wounded people in. And these doctors say they cannot keep up with the pace. So certainly very, very worrying. And this is why we're hearing from all of these humanitarian bodies and all of these world leaders that something must be done, and it needs to be done fast to stop these humanitarian casualties in the Strip, Dawn.
Sarah, families of hostages taken by Hamas on October the 7th, they've met the Israeli war cabinet. What were they able to achieve?
Well, look, that's happening very, very shortly, and they are hoping to get some sort of an agreement from the Israeli government that it will do everything it can to try and get these 137 people back. These people are extremely worried. These families say that this intense bombardment, this shelling of the Gaza Strip will not only hurt these people living down there, but also their relatives that have been trapped there in the Strip now for 60 days. They say that they are absolutely sick of the government. They say they are disgusted in the government, and they say it needs to do more. It needs to make these people a priority before this actual ground operation. Now, they say that if this war cabinet does not do something to get these people back, that they will go higher. They say they'll go to an international body, not naming which body that will be, to push for help, to push for answers. And look, there was a report, Dawn, that came out on the Wall Street Journal today that Israel is now mulling a plan to actually flood these tunnels that run through the Gaza Strip, to flood them with seawater to try and flush out Hamas operatives. But these families say they're extremely concerned it would actually drown their loved ones, Dawn.
Sarah, thank you very much for that update. Sarah Coates there reporting for us in Tel Aviv.